Hello and welcome to the Raw review here on Wrestling with Regret. Well, Elimination Chamber is over and done with. 4 weeks to go until Wrestlemania, so this week's show is kind of like the first chapter in the final leg of the journey as we make our way to Tampa. We'll see how well this show is able to help hype fans up for Mania. Becky Lynch opens the show. The Raw Women's Champion tosses to a recap package of Shayna Baszler's Path of Destruction in the Chamber match the previous night, and then they tack on at the end this online exclusive promo Baszler did after the fact, calling Becky a bitch, that old chestnut. Becky responds by calling Shayna a black hole of charisma and a constipated robot from NXT. She also brings up the fact that last year apparently Shayna did not shake Becky's hand, and so Becky remembers that. She says that, Baszler's underestimating her, and Becky will respond by smashing her face in. A pretty solid promo by Becky here. Last week, Rey Mysterio and Humberto Carrillo beat Angel Garza and Andrade in tag team action. This week, Rey hopes to get a bit more revenge on Garza in a singles match. Some good lucha things on display here. Then you've got Garza just showing his seemingly effortless charisma. At one point he tries copping the 619, but it backfires. Rey hits his own 619, drops the dime to ultimately win the match. At least it wasn't Andrade versus Carrillo again, but maybe, like I said in my review of that, can we have all these four guys just kind of piece the hell out away from each other just for a little while? We get a recap of a scene earlier in the day when the Messiah Maniacs beat up Kevin Owens and left him laying. We then see a replay of a package they showed in last week's NXT where Rhea Ripley is in the empty Raymond James Stadium talking about her match with Charlotte coming up. And then we get Charlotte herself actually make her way to the ring, and she talks some trash about Rhea here. She calls her the shiny new toy, says you're not me and you'll never be like me. And she says there's a difference between standing in an empty arena and then standing in a packed arena and waiting to be humbled by the queen. Out comes Rhea Ripley to confront Charlotte. She doesn't get much words out before Charlotte just kind of tears her down some more, and Rhea responds with just a one punch to the mouth and then walks away. I feel like we've seen that kind of thing before. It's very Becky Lynch of Rhea to do that, and I feel that right now the two most common tropes I find with these women's promos, it's either that singular punch in the face, walk away all confident or call each other bitches. Of the two, I guess I would take the punch in the mouth and walk away, but we have seen that, I feel like we've seen that a fair enough amount of times. Bobby Lashley squashes Zack Ryder. Why? Then we go backstage, we see Aleister Black getting ready to cut another moody promo when there's a knock at his door. It's only Seth Rollins and Murphy. They offer him a spot in the Messiah Maniacs, but Black turns them down, and so Rollins threatens him some more, and Black says he considers that to be a challenge, which he accepts, so match is on for later. I'm excited for that one. Eric Rowan takes on Drew McIntyre up next. At one point, Tom Phillips on commentary openly questions, gosh, what's in the cage? We don't know yet. Yes, we do, Tom. We all saw it last week. Don't try and deny it or hide the reality of what we saw last week. We were all there. We have to work through this together. Anyway, the match doesn't go very long. At one point, Drew grabs the steel steps and crushes the spider cage. Talk about some very harsh symbolism. Get that gimmick the fuck out of here. Rowan's very emotional about this, but ultimately he loses via Claymore, and that's that. I mean, for the top babyface in the show, kind of weird to cheer him when he killed a guy's pet who did nothing wrong for the most part. So how's Rowan going to respond to this? Is he going to go on a path of revenge in response, or is never going to address this? And he's going to be off TV for the next few weeks? Place your bets in the comment section. We get a recap of the Randy Orton, Beth Phoenix stuff from last week. One of the many recaps we saw in this week's episode, not just of last week's Raw we're seeing, but also from Elimination Chamber, just barraging you with highlights and everything and recaps and everything. We then see the Kabuki Warriors taking on Natalya and Liv Morgan. Kabuki Warriors cutting a promo in Japanese, and they look to be having a great time while they're doing it too. Asuka sounds like she wants to fight Alexa Bliss at some point, probably a response to Alexa calling the champions out last week on SmackDown during Moment of Bliss. During the match itself, Ruby Riott shows up at ringside to watch Liv Morgan. Jerry Lawler calls Asuka Oksana at one point. The Russian who was in season 3 of NXT, the original one with the ladies. Anyway, they correct him and he goes, okay. And then Sarah Logan shows up, stands next to Ruby. All of a sudden, they start fighting on the outside. Liv dives on to two of them. So it's 2-on-1 against Natalya and the Kabuki Warriors. Kabuki Warriors win after a blind tap that Natalya misses. So there's the advancement of that Riot Squad story we saw. So probably going to lead to something in the next couple of weeks. I mean, would they turn this into a WrestleMania matchup between the three of them? It's possible. I mean, I'm all for trying to get more women's matches on the card. Lord knows there's enough matches at WrestleMania. I think there'd be room for something like that. But my problem is, something I've already addressed in a recent Raw review, is that they give us no reason to care because the Riot Squad, at their peak when they were together, were so just not cared for as a group creatively. So now we're supposed to care about them now. So maybe not a WrestleMania match, but maybe a high-profile Raw match in the build?
Are you ready to take a fall, little girl?
Who's little? Remember that little girl's win too. You're going down. You're taking a fall, Dad!
AJ Styles with some choice words for The Undertaker. They show another recap package of Elimination Chamber, this time being the Aleister Black AJ Styles match where Taker gets involved. Man, why even bother watching the pay-per-view when all these recap packages, you can essentially watch the whole show and all the important bits for free? Anyway, AJ says that Taker ruined his perfect farewell moment at WrestleMania in Orlando a few years ago. No lies detected. He challenges Taker to a match at WrestleMania and then says, I don't see the legend, I don't see the dead man, I see an old, broken down Mark Calloway. Ooh, shoot names getting thrown into here. And oh, he also references the fact that Michelle McCool is Taker's wife. He says that she's conniving. He says that he wants to make sure Taker will die at WrestleMania. And then he wraps it up by using the word literally wrong by saying he will literally put a nail in the coffin at WrestleMania. I really liked AJ's passion and energy and delivery in this promo, but I'm always leery of promos that do that sort of kayfabe breaking thing where they use like the shoot names and everything and try and bring up like the real life non-canon stuff in the programming. I don't think this feud needed that to be referenced, seeing AJ bring Taker's wife into the mix. Is Michelle McCool going to be involved in this match at WrestleMania? Like, why bring her up in this thing if she's not going to be involved? Maybe something in the build, I don't know. But it seems kind of weird. It really, it strangely humanizes Taker for as ethereal and godlike as they make him. If they really are going to incorporate Michelle into this, that seems kind of weird. That's an American Badass Taker when like he had his wife Sarah, doing the stuff at ringside. I don't know how to feel about that. If they're gonna, it's all speculative and hypotheticals. But if Michelle does get involved, I'd be very surprised about that. But be that as it may, I think I liked enough about this promo. Again, the passion, the delivery, to get a nod from me. Backstage, Charlie Caruso tries to get a word with Randy Orton in his dark, foggy room he's been in all night, but he has no words to give. We then have a 24/7 championship match as Riddick Moss defends against Cedric Alexander. Riddick's Titantron still has the Riddick regimen that he was doing a little bit of in NXT. It's a pretty short match. Riddick hits his neck breaker to win the thing. Hey, where's Mojo Rawley in all this? Wasn't the whole reason for bringing Riddick into the main roster was he was supposed to be Mojo's backup, his friend? We know literally nothing about this guy, and he's been on TV for the last 3 weeks as a champion. And so at least bring the quarterback back to help the offensive lineman or something, or give us some more background on who the hell Riddick Moss actually is. We come back from commercial to join an MVP promo in progress where he talks about how he wants to transition from being a wrestler to a manager. He wants to put a group of guys together, and he name drops Edge in particular. And like magic, Edge rolls into the parking lot. They've been waiting for him all night. He shows up there, power walks his way to the ring, calls out Randy Orton. MVP's got a death wish or something because he asks Edge how's his wife. Edge spears MVP. Out comes Randy Orton. He and Edge have a scrape. And then Edge hits the RKO on Randy Orton, kind of a reversal of fortune, as it were. He grabs some chairs, Orton runs away, and so MVP can't leave well enough alone. He wants to fight some more, but Edge takes him down, hits an RKO on him, as well as 2 concertos, and so Orton runs off after Edge chases him away. This was a really killer segment. I think it's interesting that MVP has kind of been the sacrificial lamb in a lot of these top storylines in the last several weeks. Also curious to see if they're going to follow through with that thing where he said he's going to manage some guys and make a stable. But anyway, Edge looked great and very strong on the return. I wish they held back a little bit on having contact with him and Orton. Obviously, you want to see that kind of like scrape, but man, imagine how much more impactful it'll be at WrestleMania if they don't touch at all in the weeks leading up to this, between the big beatdown after the Rumble and here at Mania. But it's hard to have that kind of patience, so I get why they did it to that extent. But now they've opened up and put on the table that Edge is also using the RKO. But yeah, it was a really strong segment, and it really gives Edge a lot of just like babyface momentum. Yeah, good stuff overall. Probably the highlight of the show was this segment. Over the weekend, we learned that Triple H received the Arnold Classic Lifetime Achievement Award. Good for him. And then we get a hype package for Brock Lesnar, Drew McIntyre, in which, the first half is narrated by Paul Heyman, win, and the rest is counter-narrated by Drew McIntyre. They're each showing, you know, the bright points of Lesnar and McIntyre thus far. They're even able to edit in the footage from earlier in the night when McIntyre squashed Rowan's pet in the cage and everything. I think, you know, both sides made some very good points, so I think this hype package did its job. Main event time as Seth Rollins takes on Aleister Black for the first time ever, and the drawbridge sound is back for Aleister's entrance. I missed that on Sunday. Anyway, it's a good enough match for a few minutes until Murphy gets involved. The match ends in a DQ. Out come the AOP, and then in response come the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits. And because it is inevitable, we're going to have an 8-man tag team match playa instead. Aleister Black is evaporated at this point. It has nothing to do with this part of the show as we have this 8-man tag. It was a fine match, plenty of good moments. Everyone got their stuff in. It ends when Rollins gets a bit of revenge on Montez Ford, hitting him with the stomp to win the matchup there. Then afterward, Kevin Owens shows up and tries to attack, but it backfires on him. Rollins hits 3 stomps on him to close the show as we fade to black, further building that conflict as well. You know, it was a fine enough match, but I think it's, you know, I'm so sick of the trope of, you know, singles match leads to some kind of tag team match. Also, I feel we've seen a lot of permutations of this matchup a lot in the last several weeks. Also, it seems kind of a waste of Aleister Black and the Seth Rollins matchup to have it end on a DQ and then not even have Black involved in the second half of that thing. I thought it was a little ridiculous. I mean, I know it fudges up with the numbers a little bit, but I mean, yeah, Black being not being a factor in this. Are they going to come back to this? Are we going to get Black and Rollins like for reals at some point? Trying to whet our appetite? I mean, I don't know. I would have rather just seen that match happen. I think that you know, if you're going to sell me a first time ever match with guys like that, why throw it away like that? My grade for this week's Raw is a C-, kind of somewhere in the middle for me this week. I think there were some boring and random things on this show, but nothing too like offensive or maddening to me. I thought it was strong on the promo department, and also like there were some hype packages I enjoyed, although I think there were a bit too many recap and hype packages to go on in this show. So I think also the wrestling kind of suffered as a result by putting more emphasis on promos and video packages. I mean, obviously they're trying to set up as much as they can for WrestleMania, which resulted in a lot of recaps, but it did get very kind of bogged down in a sense for me. So if I'm trying to think about how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much this show got me hyped for Mania, probably give it a 4 or 5, just on the basis of Edge and Orton and the McIntyre-Lesnar stuff, and to a lesser extent the style stuff. Again, that promo got a bit too like shooty-shoot for me to really appreciate, but I think it was kind of like somewhere in the middle for me. But let me know what you thought about Raw this week in the comments section below, and be sure to give a letter grade by going to the iCard in the corner of your screen. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.